Okay, first we're going to start off with Twitter's going haywire. Twitter is becoming a low propensity. I don't know. Maybe it must be my feed, and it must be the people who I'm listening to. I'm just getting already, so I'll camera up in a moment so you can mock me and to me face. Um, but okay, I'm all for who will do the best job leading this country. Mark Carney has a very parts that I don't like. He's talked climate changey stuff, carbon tax on the average person. Um, just like Andrew Scheer, just example of Andrew Scheer, he was an individual who I shouldn't stump for this fucking individual. I think it's just always the same thing. It's like, oh, it's a psyop. It's a psyop. Ah! Okay. Um, the whole world's a psyop, and they're all it's just to create drama, and it really isn't the case. It's just we're all people, and we're all screw ups, right? It's not this one person is an evil person, and but that's just to get clicks, all right? That's fine, but in America. We're in Canada. Get real, people. But hey, it does get clicks, and you know what I mean. It gets people heated, so that's fun, right? There's only a few, I think, and it's just this team conservative idea. Come on, team things is if you're really in their camp. I don't think Canadians really are in any political camp. We all will think what we think of them, and it's not happy. But this low propensity thing that's happening, Mark Carney has very bad things. So, like Andrew Scheer, my original point I'm trying to make is Andrew Scheer was believes in the Bible 100%. He absorbs it. He said it many times. Well, the people spoke, and he said, "Well, I'm okay with gay marriage because the people spoke." Right. So that to me is an example. But he would have them what the Bible says to do, which is not very nice things. And I'm not advocating for that person. I'm just giving this as an example. And it's personal opinions, which now would be, I don't know, disagreed with by the average citizen. And so you're having your personal opinions, fruto, um, having personal opinions is different than leading in politics. You don't have to be one and the same to look at a poll and say, "Oh my God, I'm against cannabis." I'm not against cannabis. I think if you need every day, yeah, you know what I mean. Like it has to be. You should do. But so if I were against cannabis, I looked at the polls. You look at the polls. I think okay, Harper was probably against cannabis. You looked at the polls. Over 70% of the people in Canada were like, we're all cool with this. This is a thing that should be legalized. Well, that's what would happen, and that's the difference. There's a difference between your personal opinions and how you lead a country, and this is why I'm kind of okay with Carney because what I'm hearing out of the conservative camp is it's not going to help. I think it's just going to beat down the people that aren't their supporters. And that's to me isn't leadership. That's great for opposition. That's where Pierre is probably the best opposition uh, leader I've ever seen, ever. I would dare to say ever. I think he is in the best position until he dropped the ball in the foreign interference. But maybe there was another reason to it. I have to give the benefit of doubt. Maybe CISA said, "Hey, uh, listen, we're working on this, and you just keep it quiet." I only can hope that, but everything else he's done, he's good with rhetoric. He's good at finding ethics. He's good at highlighting all these horrible, silly things that you know what I mean, wastes of money the government does and stuff like that. But uh, 15 years for 20 pills. I looked it up, and it seems like users would be walking around with these 20 pills. It seems, and then putting them away for life seems to be a bit extreme. Hey, I'm 100,000 against fentanyl. So you're really, I would probably vote for it, but I still believe, ooh, that's a bit. Putting the military on the border, no, No, you don't put the military in Canada, and the military shouldn't. You don't have militaries working on their own soil. They're designed to go be the go against other people's on across our border. Using the military on your own people is the beginning of it's not a good thing. In my opinion, it should never even be thought of, and it's probably done. You just the military people are good against overseas or whatever. Obviously, it's overseas because America is such our friend. We can um, yeah, okay. So Pierre's your best. This is the low propensity. What's happened, I believe. I'm told Trudeau and his policies were making me. We're not helping the country. We're not going to make us prosper. It was, and then the proof was in the 200 billion in pipelines and stuff like that that were basically canceled. I'm not big on oil and all this stuff either. But the country has to make an economy, and if there's businesses out there that are willing to do stuff, right? Um, what's this at the border? Milton against not against the trucker. Okay, Milton. Yes, yes, yeah. I know I'm Milton. No, ha, 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 ha. What's happened though? Twitter. The problem is the people that are the majority of the voters are not on Twitter and stuff like that. It's basically they've left it. At least what I've seen on my feed this psyop. I'm gonna go through all this bull crap. And this is the bull crap. Okay, I'm sorry if you're like, oh, I'm team conservative and they're all psyop evil people. There's a lot of disagreements. I imagine policy wise, personal wise, I should say, I would have with Mark Carney, a banker. I'm just a construction guy. You know what I mean? I'm not. But the the stuff that's coming out, and you backstab someone, you pay, right? I wonder how dumb Trudeau's ruthless response is going to be. Yes, 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 I'm Trudeau. Yeah, ha ha ha. This is the feed. Thank you for coming onto the feed. Hey, Google, turn off, please. So basically, they're saying he is fake media psyop. Okay, so it's all a psyop. Pierre Polivier, Polivier, is a 21-year politician. Like, come on here. Okay, what's this other one here? Let me get this straight. Mark Carney, a non-elected private citizen with global business ties, is getting confidential trade briefings from Trudeau's prime minister. Okay, trade briefings? Yeah, he's been appointed. You know how many bureaucrats have these? They get the same thing. It's the same thing. Like, come on, they're doing. Okay, this is a funny picture. It's a funny one. Hey, that's funny. All right, that's fun stuff. I'm cool with that. Like making jokes about them. I totally think that's funny. Gay man, whatever. I don't give a fuck. But okay, he's getting briefings like a million. I don't know how many bureaucrats. Yeah, what he's been saying. But the thing is what he's been saying has been actually things like we're going to build pipelines. We're going to build. We want to do the things. We've been doing the wrong things. He believes that the Liberals have been doing the wrong things, okay? Mark Carney's sleight of hand, he's going to remove carbon taxes, since indirectly he's going to replace it with two carbon taxes, one of which would threaten a trade war with the United States. He has more ties in the United States than any other politician in Canadian history. He would be the best asset we have in a trade war, not a 21-year anyone on the bench of the Conservative. There's like, and I'm like I said, I'm all for Canada. I don't even know if I'd vote that way, but there you go, that one. Carbon tax. He said he's going to get rid of it. All right, so Brian Lilly probably has a good one. Stellar reputation as a wonderful banker, yeah, and bunch of the journalist class. I don't think his reputation. I think his resume was good, but I personally don't think a great. Mark Carney isn't working. Canada is ready to have a new party, conservative, hands down better. See, this is it. That's nothing against this guy. He's probably a great whatever, but Laura. Oh, I don't know. We're gonna cut his dick up. See, this is the baloney. This is not gonna help you cut. Well, this is basically the division politics. We'll find a bad person and we'll get him, well, you're going to have to pay more and everything is going to go up. That's the type of politics that's happening on the conservative. Not good enough. Not good enough. I don't believe it's good enough for me personally. Um, there's they can get better again, but okay. So what did he say? Okay, his basically argument was we're going all in with Mark Carney. No. Okay, so it's just basically saying go to a new party. Okay, so he's using the 338 polls, which is showing, yeah, conservative. The big rise, if you look at it, there's a huge rise in the Liberals right now because people are not team sports. I don't understand the team sport part of it. I guess it's leaking in. They won't look into his record. Okay, his record is not in the totally in my what I would always 100% agree. He had a little bit too in the environmental department of the wealthy, in my opinion. But he didn't say he's not going to run on these policies. He said all of these things that have happened in the past, I'm not going to do. And see, listen to the guy's words. That's my opinion, okay? And if you just say I'm all for Pierre, he's not going to work any harder. He's not going to have to. You have to like hold them to account as best as possible so they give us better. I don't know what he's saying. The housing is gone down. They had a housing minister who said it's actually going down. They said we're going to have 500,000 bills. It was 250 last year or 2023. Now this year is 230,000 bills. It's going down. We're building less. Under the Liberals, this is a problem. Okay, what did this guy say? Moose on the loose. Refuses to disclose his financial ties. I never heard that, to be honest. He was on the board of like investment group after investment group. None of my people, but this is, like it or not, the money people matter, right? If you look at what happens in the stock market, right? Overwhelming choose Pierre, not by 85%. Okay. And this looks like it's from his wife. Scorched earth on Mark Carney. I honestly, I'm really. Once I just heard what's his name, Peterson, say Alberta should separate. Fuck you, Peterson. Go fuck yourself. We already went through that, and go fuck yourself. I apologize for being so rude, but I heard enough of separating Canada, and he literally has left. He said, I left Canada. I'll go back, but I'm going to be an American citizen. And so he's stumping for America right now. And he's stoking anger in Canada. Like, oh my God. This is the guy I followed for years. He said, clean your room, and I agreed, and all this stuff. Now, I don't know, money. Okay, so he says he rips him to shreds, Trudeau, for his anti-energy. He is. Trudeau did all these awful things. Carney's not saying it. Getting classified briefings on trade. Come on. The guy's like a bureaucrat assigned to assist. It's not a big deal here. Okay, so the pictures, I don't like any of the pictures. Trump has been literally with the same woman. This is awful, all of them, right? So this is just my blurb. The team sport, that's what we're having. And the thing is it's not working. The Liberals are going down in polls as this half truth stuff is coming out on Twitter, because the majority of people who really vote are like that. I like. Okay, let's look at the comments. I'm gonna love them. Sadistic. What about Quebec? Quebec has a huge rise in Liberals right now. Bloc Québécois, which is there's nothing. No sadistically self-aware commenter says, what about Quebec? Well, what about Quebec? They have Bloc Québécois, which is a conservative member, and it's under Yves Blanchette, and I think he's a good politician. He says he doesn't want to separate. I kind of wish you had, he was more than just Quebec, to be honest. He's very well. And Quebec has a huge rise in Liberals right now. It's Bloc, Liberals, and then there's nothing left of the Conservatives have nothing there, and they have no one. They have no big star in Quebec. They don't have a plan in Quebec. So right there, is a big problem for them. If Ontario, which is happening, like there's like one poll that showed a 10% rise in the last couple of weeks, last week, well, about 9 days. Last 9 days, 10% rise in Liberals in all across Canada. So that's probably about 15% in Ontario. Um, Play as a team. Now pay us. You pay me, yeah. Hell yeah, F you. Globalist banker. I'm an outsider. I hey, you know, he is an outsider of the Liberal Party policies. The thing is my problem is our problem is if you want the perfect person, which I would like as the perfect person, it would be a just all Canadian lumberjack to run our country, but somehow knows everything about the machinations of the banking world and the trade world and all these things. That's the guy or girl, whatever, what have you. But we don't have that choice. We have a career politician who's really good at his job. He is awesome. I have hands down. He's the best opposition. And then when he goes into what he's going to do, the problem is what I'm having with Pierre is that he's going to turn that opposition, what he's very good at, and that's finding holes and destroying, right, people. And he's going to do that as leadership because people usually don't, you know what I mean? You don't, how you get in is usually how you reign, right? Unless you say otherwise. And he's going, so what he's going to do, he's going to find this person and that person. There's always going to be a person they're going to go after, but I don't see his policies as working. The military on our border, what? But the military on our border, like every country in South America learned that lesson. Pinochet, anybody? Like, come on. um the military is designed to go over our seas to be a lethal, destructive force, not to sit there and hold, say, kumbaya on the border, have fire watch. To me, is like, you don't even know what the fucking military's for. They should be a lethal force. None of this woke crap. It should be 100% lethal and shrunk down to whatever. If you're not lethal, then contract it out. Is my opinion. Like, that's my thing of it. But this kumbaya on the border, there ain't enough work to do. Most, like they said, I read about this stuff. Uh, most police officer work is sitting there doing paperwork. I don't want to see the military do that stuff. I want them training, running around, kicking doors, bashing things. That's all they should do every day. Just the type of people that you can only handle for about 10 minutes. Because oh my God, that's my opinion on them. Thunder. We should have Elon take a look at what you do with equalization taxes. Well, Elon's not a Canadian citizen, so equalization taxes. That's like more divisive baloney. And hey, equalization foundation board member. Carney helps run the W. Yeah, yeah. And Trump just basically took control of that organization and didn't smash them that hard. He did, but he said you got to go in a different direction. Um, I don't believe the bloc should have federal status. Well, that's okay. You can have that belief. That's fine. I believe they should, because our system works that way. Um, I had a problem with them more before, but they're kind of what they're doing, and it's they're changing the dynamic potential of our Westminster system, and I don't want to see any change in this way. I'm 100% conservative. I like the old traditional way of parties that are national. But so what could happen would be an Alberta party would rise up because Alberta is always angry about the West and all this stuff. And they already did that. It was called the Reform Party, and they didn't last too long. They had to amalgamate to do anything. So there we go with that. They've changed it. Basically, is I just um, my opinion is that we have too much. Hey, and this is cool. Like, the best thing about it all is that we're having finally the plebs, regular people. I shouldn't say plebs anymore because the guy uses his name, but the regular people now are actually Cash Patel. What the heck? Oh, news. There we go. Regular people are more paying attention to politics. More. Okay. Let's see what we got here. The liberal. I honestly am not liberal. Okay. No. No. Hillary Clinton. Yeah, he's pictures with all these people. That's what happens. This is what it took to wake up the liberals. Sure, Trump. That's he did an hour serving fries. I thought it was great. It was great. He got elected, but does he do that? Did he ever do that? No. Come on. He's awesome. He's an amazing force of change. Um, I agree. Now on the Palestinian file, I agree with what he's saying. Though the one biggest, largest caveat is they have to somehow get the Palestinian people on board to rebuilding their country or the Gaza. Um, yeah, the liberals do suddenly care. They have a new leadership. They have a new leadership that's coming in, and they see the polls, and they're changing their game. Pierre shuts down a reporter, calls him out the liberal for using the Charter of Rights and Freedoms to defend. Yeah, that I don't know about. I don't know. That is gone. The liberals, CTV. Yeah, and this is the truth. CTV Canadians pick Mark Carney over Pierre, he's just a career politician, and he's awesome at his job. This is where I. The thing is he's going to go into a position that we don't know if he's going to be good at a time dealing with Trump, and we know Trump he's not a force of nature. He's a force of planet. He's moving the planet. He's an unbelievable political force. And we're going to have someone who's only good at picking people apart to go in there. Mark Carney's biggest problem is he's not that good of a politician. He's not a good eloquent speaker. He is not good at doing personal attacks. He is good at doing the paper stuff. So I just, Freeland is did a lot of bad policies. I don't even, she's running and that's great. Karina Gould has yeah. I I don't know what her policies are. She seems nice. You know what I mean? That's all, right? I don't know. No policy, no meat there. She's getting the youth out there, getting excitement. That's good for her. Frank Bayless. Frank Bayless had an attack. He's the one I'm kind of taking the 21 years. 200, Pierre can go retire on a $200,000 pension right now. He's because his long time serving as an MP. Um, his policies that he's put out so far, I'm like, I don't agree with. I've been asking for them or whatever. Not just me, everybody, right? Of course, I'm nobody. We all know that. Like, let's look at our comments here. And I think I'm only getting some comments on my feed. I don't know what's going on with that. Okay, well, be fair. He was a Canadian before becoming an American. Who? Oh, yeah, Peterson. Yeah, but Peterson now he's gone American. He's like all Alberta, screw Canada. He said that last one that really got me. There was that one separatist party in Alberta, an individual, and he was like trying to get Alberta to separate. I had no use for that. Nothing. I don't believe in Canada. Canada should stay as whole. And it got 0.01% of the vote in Alberta. Albertans are all like, oh, screw Ontario, but they didn't want it. So him even stoking that back up. It's not even an ember. It's like a candle that went out 5 years ago. And he's like, well, Alberta should separate over what? Stoking stuff that isn't even there after he left the country, to me, is fuck you. Personally, I really respect him for his book and his work of clean up your act and defending the men and all that stuff. But don't he left our country and then he's saying Alberta should leave the country. What the fuck is fuck. Sorry. I really shouldn't swear. I just think that's Elon Musk. If you're, and this is my big problem with Trudeau. Trudeau would go on vacation and leave the country. That's, you know, um, Anyway, yeah, each having our opinion. The Bloc won't get a vote outside of Quebec. Yeah, they would. There's all kinds of French parts. Manitoba has all kinds of French areas. They could. The Bloc Québécois, if they drop the totally the separatist part. But there's some people. There's a one member in there. I don't know her name, but she said, "I'm a separatist," and she's like has such a heavy accent. She's like, "I'm a separatist." Um, okay, that's so that element's there. So you're probably right, but it won't fly in Manitoba. Manitoba's like, what? I'm French, but I'm not a separatist. So, but if they were to drop that part, I think they could get votes because there are French parts of the country that want to have more language rights, more schools and stuff like that, and how Yves Lachette has been running his party has been the policies he's been advocating for are good for Quebecers, but they also would be good for the rest of Canadians. It was rising the old age pensions and things like that. So the way he's been reigning his party, I think it would be pretty damn good. And they're really strong in Quebec. The Liberals are rising, 10% rise or over 10% rise in a week, and I think that's going to continue to go up as as we see more. As an Albertan, Belton should leave the country. Okay, there we go. I don't believe you're right, commenter. We don't need Canada or the Americans for some. Yeah, you do. And listen, I love Alberta. I read you know how these like intelligence people they like write thought experiments, right? There was a thought experiment, so it's not going to happen. But it was if one province, I'm not going to name the province, but if one province left and they went and became independent, what the American would do to that uh, province now country, it wouldn't stand for long. I'll tell you that. I'm not going to say all the details, but I'll tell you it scared me. I was like, oh my god, these people are vicious. They will economically, the people will be in poverty and they will be screaming. They will be screaming to join America. That's basically the plan. So Alberta they'll be independent for about a week. And then when BC, Yukon, and all these other places around them start, oh yeah, you want to get rid of your oil? They don't have tidewater. They never could be independent, and they'd be independent for about a week. They'd be American. It ain't gonna happen. The will of the Albertan people is we hate Ontario. We are Canadian. Um, yeah, that's what I mean. There are no separatists of French. There are no separatists. The separatism is a dead issue. It's not an issue in any shape, way, or form in Canada. They've done the polling. It is not a. It's nothing. It's not there. And Yves Lachette, who runs the Bloc Québécois, has even stated, "We're not going to push this issue. We don't want to have anything to do with it." It went away under Jean Chrétien in the 90s. All right, so that was when it really does. So whatever. That's great. You can have your opinion. Oh, Elon has Canadian citizenship. Oh, okay, that's cool. I didn't know that. I know he was in Canada, but I don't think he was. I didn't think he was Canadian. He went to university here. His mother or something. Okay, I'm gonna put up. This is my thing. I I'm seeing on X Team Sports, and everything hating is only gonna last so long. Look at if the things don't get better for the people, you can only hate so much, right? All right, Mark. Okay, this is from yesterday. Mark Carney is our Bank of Canada guy. He did a speech. Oh, I should. He did a speech. I'm gonna put this on.
Your special interest in our region has been deeply appreciated. Whatever you do next, I know Mexico and the Americas will be an important part.
Sorry,
Thank you, my friend. Now let me turn.
Just scroll to the right, you'll see it.
So now let me turn to the challenges ahead. We are facing a global economic landscape that has shifted in recent years, and this shift has important implications for central banks. As Augustine has highlighted in a series of insightful speeches, the structural tailwinds of peace, globalization, and demographics are turning into headwinds, and the world looks increasingly shock-prone. Higher long-term interest rates, elevated sovereign debt, slower economic growth, and lagging productivity all make our economies more vulnerable. Compounding these vulnerabilities are war, rising trade protectionism, and economic fragmentation. In addition, new technologies, including artificial intelligence, are set to disrupt existing industries and create new ones. And we're seeing more frequent catastrophic weather events as the impacts of climate change become more pervasive. As 2025 begins, we are facing new uncertainty with a shift in policy direction in the United States. President Donald Trump's threats of new tariffs are already affecting business and household confidence, particularly in Canada and Mexico. The longer this uncertainty persists, the more it will weigh on economic activity in our countries. If significant broad-based tariffs are indeed imposed, they will test the resilience of our economies in the short run and reduce long-run prosperity. Tariffs mean economies work less efficiently. There will be less investment and lower productivity. That means our countries will produce less and earn less. Monetary policy can't change that. What monetary policy can do is help with the short-run adjustment. But even here, monetary policy has to strike a balance. Significant broad-based tariffs will sharply reduce demand for our exports. At the same time, a weaker exchange rate, retaliatory tariffs, and supply chain disruptions will raise import prices, putting upward pressure on inflation. With a single instrument, our policy interest rate, central banks can't lean against weaker output and higher inflation at the same time. So we will need to carefully assess the downward pressure on inflation from weaker economic activity and weigh that against the upward pressures from higher input prices and supply chain disruptions. Other structural headwinds pose similar challenges for monetary policy. They'll impact both demand and supply, slowing growth while adding cost. Monetary policy cannot address these headwinds directly or offset their economic consequences. In a world with more structural change and more negative supply shocks, central banks will be faced with harder choices. And harder choices bring risks of public disappointment and frustration. We will face criticism about our decisions and about how well monetary policy is seen to have worked when confronted with forces that are mostly out of our hands. We'll be called ineffective or criticized for not doing enough, and some will challenge our independence. So what can all of us do? First, we can be humble about what we don't know, but also confident in the effectiveness of our frameworks. We didn't get everything right through the pandemic, and elevated inflation and higher interest rates have been difficult for our citizens. But in Canada, as in many other countries, inflation has come down, and we restored low inflation without causing a recession or major job losses. Guided by our frameworks, we can maintain confidence in price stability. Second, we need to be just as clear about what monetary policy cannot do. There will always be forces beyond our influence, and while we will need to understand those forces, we should be clear that understanding is not the same as controlling. And we need to avoid the temptation to overload monetary policy by expecting more of it than it can deliver. Third, we can recognize that the world has changed. Structural headwinds and supply shocks require different types of information and analysis. This means investing in richer information about the supply side of the economy and building models that can analyze sectoral shocks and their transmission. It means reaching out and listening to households and businesses. It means looking at our economies through different lenses, regularly challenging our assumptions, and using scenarios to help manage uncertainty. Fourth, let's acknowledge that working together has never been easy, and it is getting harder. But let's also remember it's important. We are more effective if we confront our shared challenges together. The shared resolve of central banks to fight the post-pandemic surge in inflation helped us all bring inflation down. This was a positive international spillover, and together we can generate other positive international spillovers. Finally, we need to remain evidence-based, technocratic and professional, and free of political influence. We need to be open, accountable, and transparent. And we need to be learning institutions. When faced with valid criticism, we should critically evaluate our policy actions and be willing to improve. Being independent and accountable and continuously learning is how we build trust. The world is a tougher place today than it was just a few short years ago. And facing the headwinds will not be easy, but that's why we have independent central banks. We're designed for tough times. I look forward to hearing from my esteemed colleagues on this panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Governor Macklem, for reminding us what central banks can and cannot do. And with that, I turn to Governor Rodriguez for her introductory remarks.
Okay, wada. Still setting up. All right, so there's the Bank of Mark Carney, our Bank of Canada, basically saying we have to pay attention to the people more than just are pushing forward and all that. And he had a pretty good bunch of things, and that the shifts are happening, but still they're not there. Joe, I don't know, people going to jail. What evidence do you have of that? And this is what's happening. There are people going to jail. Did you not see these two fentanyl deals? There's a lot of people that are getting angry. And the largest drug bust, largest drug fentanyl bust happened. And a lot of these people's arguments are just going to be going to the wayside because their money's going to dry up, and they're going to get more angry. But basically, we've had a lot of movement. The SAR is happening. Casting dispersions and making things up is what's been happening in our politics, and it just doesn't. It's not going to happen. Don't listen to the local criminal on how to deal with crime. This is my opinion. Look at where America has been going lately. It's not perfect, but we're starting to see movement on these very large organizations that have basically what I think was happened is they overstretched too far, and they got into politics when they shouldn't have. Me as well. I know I shouldn't have. But they got into these organizations that were influencing organizations, and then they got in there, and now it's like, well, their money is going to be in trouble because this fentanyl problem is huge. More Canadians are dying of this than in America on some days. This is as many people as have died since in World War II. For what? Like, oh, are they all bad people? This is just a horrible way to run a country. This is how you destroy your country from the inside. He is the Bank of Canada governor. Yeah, I would ask him about the Bank of Canada monetary policy. He knows. I know this is your idea is like, oh, we hate these WEF people, but I'm sorry, the world just turned, and they heard you're screaming at them, finally, and there's going to be changes. And listen, the majority of people who vote are not the people that are angry, and being more angry isn't going to make you more self-right. It's actually turning more people. There was a huge rise, and the Conservatives went down 4%, and there was a rise at least 5 to 12% in Liberals because of this. Because finally, Carney, who has a passed that I not necessarily agree with. Like, his environmental touting was a bit heavy, more than a bit. But what he's saying for policies is I don't made more sense, and that's just me, right? And that's so far, right? But he has to get elected, and things have to change. But under this tariff thing, 80% of Canadians think that he'll do a better job than Pierre, right? If the bankers are not that. No, they're not. They're not. They haven't been helping our nation very much lately because of what was the idea, I believe. The international idea was that we don't need borders anymore. We're going to invest all of our money, and it had been working. So we invested all of the new factory work since I got out of high school in the 90s, not in Canada. If you had a great idea, you could get a loan from all kinds of banks, not just a Canadian, American, all these banks, European banks, to build it in Asia. You could build your factory in Asia. They were like, because hey, it's easier there, it's cheaper, we're going to make money, and you'll be able to sell more because you'll be able to have a lower price at Walmart. What was Walmart's big claim to fame? Lower prices every day. Lower prices come with lower standards for the people that are working there. You couldn't do that here, but we could in Asia. Now, as that time has gone on, that argument won't work anymore because we now have machines that can work faster than humans. So we can beat them only if we built the factories of the future. That'll be less people in these factories, but at least they will be here, built, and you know what I mean? There is nothing's perfect. But the idea of investing overseas with the banking money, and not just bankers, investor groups, all these people, we've seen it has borne fruit. And now we're having issues in our own country doing these social policies. And their answer was, hey, we'll just give them free drugs. We'll just wipe out a certain part of the population. Well, that's not doing very well either. Okay. This is my opinion. Means nothing. I'm still trying to. All right, so now we got something else up here. We got Trudeau. Conservative Michael Barrett said something today. I don't really. Okay, we got Trudeau. He's in Toronto. This is about trade, so whatever, right? I know. Good morning.
Prime Minister, thank you for your tremendous leadership. You've been a friend of Toronto.
Okay.
And we've celebrated a lot of successes together. Building more housing faster, feeding more kids, and investing in public transit to get Toronto moving. And that goes to prove that we are stronger when we come together. And here today, I look around. Look at us. It is leaders from business and labor and trade, government, all coming together as proud Canadians. Yes, proud Canadians. United together to face the threat of this senseless U.S. trade action. And yes, we are ready. It's my honor to welcome all of you here to Toronto. Hardworking Canadians are saying they're worried, they're anxious. They're worried about what impact it'll have on their jobs, whether their lives will be a bit less affordable, right? But I know all of you leaders have their backs. That's what Canadians know to do, because that's who we are. Supporting each other, caring for each other, protecting and defending our industry, creating good jobs. And coming Saturday, the February 15th, it is the Canada Flag Day. And Nathan Phillips Square at 10 o'clock, we're going to raise a flag almost the size, maybe even bigger. So come on down. If those of you that are in town at 10 o'clock, we'll wear red and white and show that we are proud Canadians. Canadians are looking forward to your deliberation today and the results of it as you plot the path forward to long-term prosperity and economic self-reliance. As proud members of Team Canada, we are ready. Let us welcome, well, already on the stage, let's welcome our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau.
Thanks, Olivia. Thank you for your welcome here to Toronto. But mostly, thank you, all of you, for coming together in this moment. This is a moment. This is a time in our country's history, in our time in our economic, but also our life as a country that really, really matters. And I want to thank every one of you for being here. I want to particularly recognize this incredible council that we've gathered, that we've been working with very, very closely over the past number of weeks. But one of the challenges we've had with this council is keeping it small enough so that we can have genuine engagement with top leaders from across the country, from different industries, but the idea that we'd love to have hundreds of people on the council, and that's exactly what this morning is all about. Each and every one of you being part of Team Canada right now to contribute and to help shape the conversations that Canadians are having right across the country. It's a
time for us to come together and to really think tactically and strategically about how we can deal with this time and how we can build a stronger future for all Canadians in a world which for the past few years has become more and more uncertain.
Focusing on is meeting Canadians where they are. And the place Canadians are in right now is, quite frankly, inspiring. How people have been stepping up over the past few weeks, sharing lists of how they can buy Canadian in their everyday lives. Reflecting on where they want to spend their dollars on vacation, whether it's Cape Breton or Banff or Quebec City. Thinking about how they can contribute as workers, as business leaders, as individuals to moving Canada forward in all the ways that matters. And individual Canadians, whether it's leaders on the council like Wes Hall, Arlene Dickinson, Jean Charest, or others, stepping up to talk about this moment of pride in Canada and how we can pull together and take on this challenge and the opportunity that comes with it. And that's why gathering all of you here today to reflect on that, to pull together, and to chart a path forward for this country is so incredibly important, because this is Team Canada at its very best. Thank you for being here. As I said, I think we need to do two things in this. We need to both start thinking tactically and strategically. On the tactical side, we need to talk about tariffs. The 30 days extension been given on the border or fentanyl tariffs is something we need to use. We need to be very deliberate about how we continue to engage closely with the United States to make the case and demonstrate that Canada is responsible for a tiny part of the North American fentanyl problem, but that we are also bitterly touched by this tragedy. We also want to be part of solving for this. And over the next 30 days, we will demonstrate that even the tiny amount that is Canada's responsibility into the United States is going to reduce even further by working together, not just across our border, but internationally as well, to make sure that there is no reason to move forward with those tariffs 30 days from now. And that is a priority. But also tactically, if those tariffs do end up coming in, or if the investigation into commerce tariffs that are scheduled for April move forward, we need to be ready to respond robustly as we are. We also have to be ready to support Canadians through the responses we're giving and through a difficult time of tariffs. That's something we have to talk about. But we have to keep in mind that our goal will always be to get those tariffs lifted as quickly as possible. That's the approach we have to have tactically around tariffs, that is focused on demonstrating the depth of the relationship, demonstrating that we can solve the challenges they're facing, but also make sure we're protecting Canadians and moving forward. Alors, de façon tactique, oui, il faut qu'on se concentre
tactically speaking, we have to focus on tariffs, but we also have to talk about strategy as well.
The strategic reflection we have to have right now is that we are in a moment that we have to meet for Canadians to see not just how we get through this particular challenge over the next 30 days or few months, but how we get through and thrive and grow stronger over the next 4 years and into what may be a more challenging long-term political situation with the United States. How do we make sure we are resilient as an economy? And for me, there's 3 areas we need to think about: Canada, the United States, and international. First of all, on Canada, it's about time we had genuine free trade within Canada.
Yeah, that looks like it's coming. Wow.
Vous le savez tous, il existe encore beaucoup trop de
barrières. There are still far too many barriers to domestic trade across the country. Minister Anand has just brought together the trade ministers of the provinces and territories after decades of efforts by successive governments to really seize this opportunity.
We've been talking about, and quite frankly, the business community has been talking about for decades, as we have to move forward on it. This is one of those moments and opportunities where we actually can. There's a window open because of the context we're in. We have to jump through it. And it's not just about political will, because I can tell you all the premiers are united in saying, yes, let's do it. But there's challenges within bureaucracies to say, oh, but it'll be hard to recognize teaching certificates from one quarter of the country versus another. It'll be hard to get proper labor mobility, or there's a reason we have a specific tire requirement on our trucks for our province, or a specific need for a first aid kit in those trucks that differs from one place to the other. A lot of barriers that just don't make sense. But it's going to require all of us, not just governments, but business leaders as well, to step up and push hard and make sure that in this moment we actually move forward on free trade within Canada that'll make us more efficient, more competitive, and give greater opportunities for Canadians, and not just individual Canadians, but businesses and suppliers to do business across Canada, east-west, and not just north-south, that has always been easy and default until this point. So that's something I'm going to need all of your help on to push. Secondly, trade with the U.S. Now, there's a lot of talk about diversification. We'll get to that as well. But let's face some facts here. We are Canada. Geography means we're always going to both benefit and be challenged by trade with the United States. It's always going to be a big chunk of our economy. Can we be deliberate and strategic about where we're creating deeper partnerships that make sense, where we're looking at whether it's critical minerals that are going to be so essential for the future and that international suppliers are a little more unreliable on, and certain countries are unreliable on, whether it's moving forward on energy and deepening our energy links in a positive way that actually solidifies those ties and makes them less vulnerable to the vagaries of politics. Can we be thoughtful and deliberate about the kinds of partnerships that enhance and create true win-wins, but also give us a little more protection against political rhetoric in the United States? These are things we can deliberately look at, that we are looking at, and certainly Minister Champagne is there engaging with that, Minister Wilkenson on energy and critical minerals. There's a lot of conversations happening that says, okay, we're always going to be trading with the United States. Can we make sure we're doing it from a position of strength and solidity and protect ourselves for the long term? Mais le troisième élément, bien sûr, c'est plus de commerce.
The third thing, of course, is more international trade.
Making sure we're taking advantage of the incredible trade deals that Canada has signed, most of them over the past 9 years, with 2/3 of the global economy. From CPTPP with Asian, South American, and one European country, with the UK joining the CPTPP. We have a tremendous opportunity to go where a big center of gravity of the economy is being pulled. But it's not enough to just sign a trade deal. We have to actually then follow up on it with trade missions, with actual investments, with partnerships. And that's why Mary Ying, our trade minister, who's not here today, is on her way. She's right now at the WTO in Geneva, and she's on her way to Australia and Asia to engage even further on another trade mission. We need to follow up on that. We have a free trade deal with Europe that has seen opportunities grow significantly over the past years, but can we do even more? Can we look at diversifying our supply chains so that we do have those opportunities internationally as well? Can we look at new markets that we're opening up? There's so many different opportunities and challenges we can get to that there is a moment right now that we all should be talking about. So what we're going to do this morning is we'll do a little bit of Q&A with the council that I will facilitate, and I'll answer a few questions from you guys as well. Then we're going to go and pull together in different groups to talk about sectoral impacts, to talk about Team Canada, so we can draw on your ideas and come together with even more plans and more solutions for how we move forward as a country. Because Canadians are watching right now. They're watching to see that our leadership collectively is able to meet this moment, is able to step up, is able to be there to say, this is Canada, we got this, and this is how we're going to do it. That's what Canadians want, that's what Canadians are counting on, and that's what I know we are all here to do, all committed to building. So thank you all very much for being here. Merci beaucoup.
It was better when Trudeau was all talking slow and lording down from his ways. I don't like agreeing with him, to be honest. I don't like it. I begrudgingly agree that the Team Canada. What happened? Oh. What happened was, I feel like I'm doing a mea culpa, but he's the one who's done the change. Since Trump got into power and he went to Mar-a-Lago, no one knows what was said in Mar-a-Lago, but something was said. As the Dom LeBlanc, his face was very red when he was talking about it, and he doesn't notice that. His face got really red and he was talking about Trudeau resigned shortly thereafter. No one got Trudeau to resign. Right? Everyone told him, well, who knows what happened. But since then, in the tariffs, Trudeau is saying they got a Team Canada thing together, and the premiers have all got together, except Daniela Smith, who went down to Mar-a-Lago and, kind of worked in her favor, kind of didn't. Not 100%, but she did some good rhetorical stuff. But it was a major shift in the Liberal Party, and not just a little shift. We have seen a monumental, like the earth turned. They were all about canceling projects. He just said in his speech, we're going to push forward with projects. Like, what? We want to expand our trade. The CPTPP is I can put it, Canadian Pacific Trade, blah, blah, blah. It's the countries involved. There's a lot of countries involved. I hope this is lined up. I'll give you guys a. Okay. It's the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. Okay, so it's Chile. Okay, let's see the countries here. Blah, blah, blah. All right, we have 10 countries. And he just said England, the United Kingdom is getting involved in it, which is making this very big. So this is like a free trade agreement. So this is like straight from the government site. Okay, the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP, the Indo-Pacific, is now the world's leading region of economic growth. offering big opportunities for trade and expansion. Canadian businesses can get ahead of the global competition by using the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP, and a free trade agreement between Canada and 10 other nations in the Indo-Pacific. Australia, Brunei, which is a really beautiful touristy place, safe and thing, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, and Vietnam. Vietnam is a manufacturing powerhouse that rivals China, the PRC, I should say, not China necessarily, the PRC, in manufacturing goods in places. When they said the supply chains were going to leave our supply chains, you know what I mean, because of whatever, a lot of them moved to Vietnam from out of China. You know what I mean? Certain things that we found critical to our, you know, like masks and stuff like that. A lot of them moved there. So it was a pretty big move. And whatever. And yeah, he resigned. He resigned as the Liberal Party leader, but he's still the Prime Minister. And we're in turmoil right now. I think it's like they knew something was coming, and it definitely wasn't a good. It's not a good time to be throwing into election. It wasn't before, but now it's coming to 2 months. I'm a firm believer in the term limits. Harper is the one who put them in, and basically, it's 4 years. Every 4 years, we have election. The problem is, and Doug Ford's doing it right now, what happens is that politicians that are in power use their power for the advantage. First of all, they use their office. Doug Ford's going to get in, right? He's going to get in. He's going to get a supermajority. But he's only 2 years into his mandate, okay? 4 years? He's a supermajority. Like, this is very, very, very rarely do you get this much power. Well, some bad things were going to come against him. Some like they got some mud being thrown at him. And they're coming up, and the Liberals were working on it, and I think he caught wind of it, having all his fingers in the government. He obviously found it, and he pulled the election when he was at his best moment. Well, it's going to cost $200 million. No one really wanted it. Everyone wanted him to stay in because the proof is in the polling that he's maybe going to get more, right? So, and I'm just using this example because it's happening right now. I think he's still going to do it. But so politicians that are in power use this to their advantage. This is with Harper, his reason for putting in term limits. He says we're going to make it every 4 years. Like someone said, we're having an election again? What? Why are we having didn't we just have one? Yeah, we did 2 years ago. But the politician found, hey, in 4 years I may not, there's no reason for it. So I'm a firm believer in you do it. We do our election, and then 4 years later we'll do it again. Don't worry, it'll come. It's coming, no matter what. In October. In October, this Liberal Party is their time. The 4 years is up because Harper put into place. Now, what he should have also put into place, in my opinion, it needs to be strengthened. This part, the government can't trigger. And then again, it has to. There's a vote of no confidence that can happen. Okay, that's all the other parties say. We don't have confidence in the party of it. They have the majority of the votes, say, like in a minority government in this case, and they can take the government down. That can happen now. I would like to see that more stringent because what happens is our government. The government of the day is always on it's always going to fall every week, and it doesn't help our democracy. It doesn't help us beat countries like the PRC who have Xi Jinping reigning for forever in perpetuity, or Putin, they call them autocrats. When they have that consistency, it's better because everyone knows this. When you start a new job, it's chaos, right? Look at Trump. Well, his first time. This time he's much better. He's doing a great job. But there's turmoil. They're like, what do we do? You go into a new job. Imagine going to a new job you've never even done before. Like our new finance minister is going to be like, well, I've never even, I don't even have anyone around me that's been in it. We're all new. That's good, but it creates turmoil, right? So if it's every year, every 2 years, that's country goes in perpetual, all the time. So like in the States, it's 4 years. Trump's in for 4 years. There's no way you can take him out. For 4 years, he's got the will, and he can act kingish. But in Canada, it's not the case. So it can make us a little bit more on shifty ground. That can be good. I think if the opposition parties get together and take down the government, but I don't think it's good when the government uses it to their advantage. And I don't blame a politician for doing it. For like I don't blame Ford for calling it. Hey, he's doing good politics. It's a part of the laws. It's a part of the things. He's never, you know. So it's not like the nostalgia, but going forward, I personally think it should be just especially in the federal. It's 4 years. You can't get it unless it's a vote of no confidence, which could happen. It still could happen. But I think it should be a little more stringent because we've seen conservative and we've seen liberal, and if you look at the history, there isn't a huge radical difference. It seems to be the same class. What we need to do is more worrying about who gets in the original than career politician type. That's very good at rhetorical stuff, but not going to care about a thing about your policy, right? Hating is easy. Dividing and hating, that's an easy way to get people to vote. And they just, because we always forget, right? Yes, he resigned. Not me. Not me. I said I was going to stop writing. Trudeau is basically saying that we have to focus on these countries of this Trans-Pacific trade agreement here, way more than America. The problem is America is one beautiful. It's like one beautiful available person who always wants to buy our stuff, right? They're like the perfect person to sell to. They have money, they have the demand. They want this stuff. You know what I mean? Perfect person you want in your store. It's like a person on Christmas, right? You know that they want to buy your stuff. They got the money because they're in the stores. They're the one you want. So it's a convenient person. Well, there's all these other people in the store that also have money, maybe not as much, and maybe they're not as demanding, but we should sell to more. I don't know. That's a weird analogy, but we shouldn't sell only to that one individual. We should try to sell our products with what has been set up by our four politicians, right? This was started with Harper. Harper started this, and I don't know if he was the initiator of it. I don't think so, but Australia, Japan, it's like everything. Just like Canada, we have Japanese people in this country. A lot of people who speak Japanese in this country. Well, they're a very good asset to sell to Japanese people. We should use that. America also has that, you know what I mean, that fabric like us. But we have assets like we have people from Indonesia in this country. The thing we have people from Philippines, isn't it? Philippines in this country. Australians, of course. Brunei is a small place. Peruvians, New Zealanders, Singapore. Singapore is a very small nation. It's like it shows you what can be a powerhouse if you do things right. It's a very tiny, tiny, tiny place, and it's very, very wealthy. Malaysia is an upcoming place, very upcoming. Indonesia isn't there. I'm surprised. I thought Indonesia was in it. Maybe they're talking with them. So Indonesia isn't even there in this agreement. So whatever, forget them. But this is agreement of trade. So it's been set up. We should be having. I think he's about to do it. I'm advocating. I would be an advocate to get this trade mission on there. Get our artists. Get our companies. Every one of our companies. CEOs, whatever, what have you. Business leaders. People that are heads of associations and stuff like that. Like even like the steel workers people. Get them on this mission because they are the ones that can say, hey, this is our standards here. This is why you should buy our stuff because of our standards, and this is what we, you know what I mean? To just a wall of Canada, a beautiful wall of Canadian sales I think is what we should do, and now is the time because Trump has basically said, hey, we don't want all of your stuff as much as we did before. We want to build stuff here, and that's good. That's good. They're gonna eventually, in a couple of years after they're, or even right away, when their factories are being built, they're gonna do buying our stuff, our natural resources and stuff like that to build what they want, right? But he wants to help the middle, what they call middle America, where the factories, the Rust Belt, Pennsylvania Rust Belt. He wants to rebuild that. That's good. And once America is building and doing that again, it benefits us. But first, he has to change the trajectory. And the trajectory currently is you got an idea, build it over there. Now he's saying you got an idea, build it right here. The pandemic showed us, like those facial masks. It was an invention in Canada, how to make this weave, whatever. Well, we weren't making them. Nowhere in Canada did we make it. It was a Canadian invention, this how to do it in a miraculous fast way, and we weren't doing it in our country. So this is an example, and millions of times over. And Trump has designed to say it like that. Now let's see the rest of him.
On se met au travail.
Thank you, and let's get down to work.
So it's...
Oh, shit. Oh, that's it. Okay, that was all. Work. That's that one. Okay, so there's Barrett out there to do an attack at Green Party leader. He has a tax plan. I'm not covering the Ontario. I'm not covering the election. You have to like be accredited and stuff like that. So I'm not going to go too much into that. So only his remarks were. Oh, maybe we got more.
All the ways is with the United States to step up with Asian.
Oh no, they didn't put his questions. So he did questions. Okay, so this is on the United Nations. I don't know enough about this. The thing is that the political will of the Palestinians must be compensated for. The United Nations could be a big help in Trump's plan. I truly believe that, and Bill Ray is an outstanding politician and all that. And you know, I'm going to sit here and say I know everything.
Well, I think the decision to
this is live.
Basically pour concrete down the Eglinton subway was a disaster. It was a truly stupid decision. And
that is a stupid decision. Pour concrete down the subway. Oh yeah, because it was water.
After serving as the Prime Minister's special envoy on humanitarian.
Here's his resume. So Bill Ray's our United Nations.
This unscheduled and the Liberal Party. I think you're familiar with both parties.
Yeah, he is. He's conservative stuff. United Nations, I think, isn't totally broken, but it needs a little bit of a revamping, like the condemning of certain nations and not of others. It's just not, it's turned into too much of a finger-wagging virtue signal. And Trump's idea of Palestine, which is the newest idea, hey, help them build, give them hope. This to me is, I don't know, it seems like common sense. Give people hope, give them work. If you just sit someone and in destruction, what are you going to get? You're going to get someone who's going to be more angry. And then, like they said, in 21 years, they're talking about maybe cleaning up Gaza. Well, I'm sorry, 21 years is too long. That will create a 21-year-old who's lived in rubble his whole life without hope. And if you don't have hope, you get angry, right? Or something not good, right? it's a it's not the answer to say we want them to run themselves. The last group that was in there, Hamas, was running it, and what did they do? They basically had a destructive. They took the money, they took pipes, and I've seen this video of like they took pipes and they made weapons out of these things. This was like they gave them pipes to put water in. They didn't put water in. They're like, no, why would we do that? Our people don't want water to their homes. we're going to we're going to instead shoot bullcrap at the Israelis, and they can shoot it down like nothing. It's like pointless, you know. I don't see any sense in it. Personally, I think it's just completely, all it does is creating anger. And they're like, yeah, you can cheer like a sports team. Who cares? You shot a rocket, it got shot down. It's just throwing money around when the people are suffering. This isn't, whereas Gaza could be an example of the best thing in the world. And they could say, see, look, we can rule ourselves. Help us out. Da, 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 da. If they have some historical gripes at that point, but usually what will happen is they'll have economic prosperity, and they'll be like, you know what, I don't know, I'm not really angry anymore. But see, this is what a lot of the people want to keep the status quo, because they've benefited from the horrible plight of the people. And that to me makes, and that's just small fringe. It's not, I don't think it's majority. I think really what it is people have an idea and they're like, well, let's help them by having them run themselves. But and then keeping their hands off. So they're like, yeah, well, let's help them run themselves. They should be self-determining. But what happens is the people with guns become the ones who are determining, and there's no one there, like United Nations or UN or NATO or any of these people, or American troops or any troops they're like working for the people. So it's just basically the people with the guns get into power, and then they do horrible things. Surprise, UN, you can't have someone rule themselves when you're allowing basically a gang, a drug dealing gang, to rule the people. Yeah, they got in at first, but would they have got in the second round if it was fair? If they weren't being threatened? No, of course not. They would have never been in. That's why Hamas didn't do elections. And they're always going to be a problem. And Hamas isn't all bad, but you can't allow them, I don't believe. Allowing them to rearm and stuff like that is just, to me, why? That's self-determination when you're being ruled by a gun. And that's what they did over there. Look at all the Hamas leaders. They'll have guns in their hands. What happens to the person who doesn't have one, who lives in that city, who has 8 kids or whatever like that? What's about that individual? They have no say. It's the guy with the gun. And there's no UN. There's no big brother helping those people. And Trump is saying he wants to help the people by building. And I know he doesn't want to put the troops in. I don't know how he can do it. I just don't know. I pray he finds a way without forcibly removing people. But Netanyahu said something good. The Palestinians right now are not allowed to leave if they want to. They have to like sneak out and go into another country. So this is like, doesn't make sense. If they want to, they should be allowed to. That's the first rule of freedom. Should be allowed. It's not USSR. They should be allowed to move anywhere they want to. First thing. And I believe that he's right, that there should be countries, the neighboring countries, should build temporary homes for them. I believe with like a 10-year plan. Say, okay, we have homes for you for 10 years. It's just close is good because the cultural differences are very small. Have a 10-year spot. Put them, you know what I mean, in these areas. The Sinai Desert in Egypt is very desolated. You know what I mean? The ones who want to go, to forcibly do that is not, that's not, no. Like, that's just Trump talk, I think. I think how he speaks, But if I was a person in Gaza and Saudi Arabia or Jordan or Egypt had to say, hey, we have a house for you can stay in for 10 years while the rebuilding or your family can, and you can work, right? There's a different culture there, right? Your family stays in this home in Sinai or wherever, doesn't matter where, somewhere close in the region, a safe, wonderful home, and you can come here and work and rebuild, right? And you go back and forth, just like the oil workers do, the Newfoundland oil workers, right? Their families are still in Newfoundland. They fly to the oil patch. They do their oil things, and they go back home. That's, to me, would be a thing, because it's going to be awful conditions. It's not a place to raise families, right? It's not a place at all that should be that, in my opinion, right? So they should. There could be something like that if they do a working together, um, but automatically saying Trump is wrong and his idea needs to be canceled. Um, you know, I'm gonna end this stream. I'm gonna restart it because it's a different topic, but I think the Gazans need. I personally believe the Palestinians, yes, self-determining. They have to determine um, their own. You know what I mean, self-ruling or whatever. But they need help to get there, and you can't just say, okay, go do it without providing the security and the safety to help them build the institutions and these things that are not, that are democratic, and they allow two-party systems, at least two parties. There should be at least two parties, like, um, and and their arguments can be back and forth, and it's not about, and then they can do their own thing like every other country, have their own gripes in the UN, and then get in the UN. And I believe that they should do a tunnel from Gaza to the West Strip. I mean, to the West Bank, like a tunnel. That's how you connect the two, with a highway tunnel, not a terror one, a tunnel to connect the two. Once Gaza becomes, if it becomes a great place again, cleaned up and built, then that's how it could connect, right? And yeah, there we go, two-party state. I agree. I'm not against all of the ways. In my very limited view, you guys can hate me as you will, but I think that that's probably the biggest issue of our time, that it hasn't. So it's a basic to me, as a human right and all this stuff, that should be that they shouldn't have to live in, and like, the Israelis destroyed that whole place. Just look at the pictures. It's like, wow. And now it needs to be rebuilt, and they had to do it to get rid of the people that were there. I'm not condemning them, like Ireland and all these other countries or whatever. Some politicians are. They did what they did. I don't believe in going past that. They did horrible things to stop horrible things, right? It, and in between there was horror. Now, I think, put up the white flag, and I think the United Nations could come forward if we got nations, all of them, stepping forward and putting their slice, like they did with the Marshall Plan. The Germans were a terror, and they flattened it. The country was flattened. And then what they could have done is like, well, we'll just do it. We'll have another World War III, because World War One, they didn't help. They built themselves. 20 years later, there was World War II, right? But they decided that, well, no, the Americans really took a huge portion of it. No one else really helped in this. Well, Canada, of course, and a couple of them, but it was really Americans. And I think we don't need we have the example, and so the Marshall Plan gave them basically American bucks, their conversion, money, on tons of money, and we rebuilt Germany, and Germany became a very democratic place, anti-anger and all this place. Now look at Germany; it is more Western than other countries. They built it, instead of letting them fix themselves like they did after World War. And then what happened? They came and attacked again because they were angry. They fixed them. They pulled up their bootstraps and were angry. They weren't angry after the Marshall Plan. They wanted to join the United Nations. They wanted to not build a military, not go into that anger. And I think that's the only way the Palestinians. And now the Marshall Plan was a huge endeavor, just a very big cost to America. No, America gained it back through the 2008, banking stuff. But it's this here is Palestine is 2 million. It's a very small area. It's a city. If the world can't get together and say, look, it worked there, let's try to make it work here. And every country has a sector kind of thing, and every sector competes against the other sectors to help build it. And the whole idea is to have the Palestinians run it, not these countries that help build it. That given, you know what I mean, each country gives $10 billion, and there's 200 nations. That's a lot of money. There we go. One city, we can have one city built, one beautiful city, like the pearl of the Middle East. And that's my thinking on it. Many hands into it instead of this. Let them fix themselves. Well, if they fix themselves, we know what's going to happen. History has shown us. So I don't know. You guys don't. Okay. Well, I don't know. The Israelis they had a threat on their border, their northern and their southern borders. They dealt with that, and it wasn't the people. It wasn't the Gazans. The Gazans were getting money from another country, and that other country was feeding one element that was not the majority of the people, and that element did some horrible things. They attacked a music festival, a music festival of peace. So I'm sorry. I disagree with you wholeheartedly on that. That you know, they did things that they shouldn't have done against Israelis, and the Israelis had to act. What are these? I don't understand what they. Maybe you could say they went too far or this and that. I don't know, but that's beyond my real knowledge. I just don't. I don't even want to talk personally. I don't want to talk about what happened before Trump suggested this. I think it's like let that go, and where do we go from here? Do we do the same thing that we've done, at least in my whole lifetime since the 80s? Just give them money. They go back, and then they all of a sudden they have a person who hijacked planes run their country. Come on. And then look at where Yasser Arafat's wife is. She's in Paris living she took all the money. Yasser Arafat stole the money. He's no longer with us. She stole all the money and flew to Paris. She's living like a queen. Well, who the hell is she? Her husband was the prime minister of a place, but he took the money, the United Nations aid. Like, come on. Yeah, we want them to have self-determination, but we need them to have self-determination with a proper. We have to build the democratic systems up somehow, and I think Trump's idea is to build it up through building, like through literally physically building it. And he's thinking peace will come. People will rise out of that to be leaders. And I see it. I see what he's doing here, and it makes sense to me. The idea of shipping them out is it's pretty harsh. It's very Trumpian, you know. I don't know how much that would fly. I don't think so. I think my idea is a little bit better. Is that giving them the opportunity, having them the opportunity to live not far, have their family go there, and then have the work. Have them come, the male part of the society come and clean and clean up the destruction. Those UXOs are going to be all over the place. There's going to be tons of them. It's going to be a year. You can't have families living that. They have problems because there's problems with their country. Right? There's problems in your country, problems there. And it's not everywhere they settle. Jordan is majority. Jordan is one of the most peaceful places, majority Palestinians. So, and where were these groups getting money from? America pulled out. Hezbollah was getting their money, you know what I mean, from one country. So, it's kind of blaming the victim on that one. Oh, they're all bad people. That's kind of that's bullshit. that's racism. They're not bad people. They're in how many Palestinians are in America? Lots. Doctors, lawyers, all kinds of great professions. It's nothing to do. They have a political problem. That's the biggest problem. There's a very big problem with politics, and there's a lot of anger, and the people that are getting that want to stoke more war are getting money and leading. Jordan's a great example. Look at how many Palestinian percentage is very, very high, and it's one of the most peaceful places. Someone went there before. He said it was probably the most peaceful places he says he's ever been to. He suggested over and over to go there. Why is it always shut off? Okay, so 2.2 million. 2.2 million in around 3 million Palestinians in Jordan. The UN Relief Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees in the Near East, UNRWA, which, whatever, registered the 2.2, the total numbers around, it's thought to be higher. Okay. So there's 3 million in Jordan. Jordan had a riot a few years ago, and it was people, and I don't, riot's the wrong word. They had a protest, and the worst you seen was this. There's nothing. I think there was a couple things that were like, they had it. That was like the big thing. Which country has the most Palestinians? Oh yeah, here we go. Israel, obviously, is number 2. Syria, 630,000. Chile, oh wow, largest Palestinian community outside the Middle East is Chile. I didn't know that. Chile is a pretty fairly peaceful place. It's a very peaceful place. They have certain issues. Lebanon has 500,000. Saudi Arabia has 280,000. Egypt has 270,000. The United States has 250,000. The largest concentrations in Chicago, Detroit, Los Angeles. History of Palestinians in Los Angeles. Okay. So they're people, I think, that have had a very hard political. The people of their politicians have been poor. Right? That's my opinion. They've had poor politicians. The highest number of them are in Jordan, and they don't have problems there with them. Very, very seldom. That's probably one of the most peaceful places in the world. And Israel itself is got 1.7 million that are living peacefully in the Knesset. There's like actually a Muslimy party, so I imagine Palestinian party within the Knesset, the parliament of Israel. It's people deciding that they're not going to follow this person who is a plane hijacker, stealing aid money. That's my thing. Is what the problem I believe is with the UN has they have been too light-handed in handing out the money. They have to be unreasonable with the money, to be honest. Unreasonable at first until there's a proven factor of helping. And I myself would be like that. Would put my, when someone's spending like a banshee smoking cigarettes, not doing health to themselves, and you want to help them, drinking too much, swearing too much. I don't know. Like I never really drink too much, but sometimes I would drink a lot, right? And I wanted all to stop these things. Well, it has to do with where are you putting, your stuff. So you have to slow it down and to make it better. And I think like every dollar I spent, I had to watch. And then it's like, well, if I'm like, I got not much money, but if I got money, and the last dollar you're buying is going to go for cigarettes. You know where your priorities are, right? So it should be monitored so heavily at first until there's like, okay, there's a democratic system that we can say, over these 3 years, it's been going to not coloring books of like these look at the coloring books that the IDF had, that they showed it. Like they're like, look, they're shooting rockets from this school, and these rockets that we knocked down like nothing, no problem. There's no accuracy, and the coloring books had like, you got to Google it yourself. I won't even say it online. I can't believe it for like 6-year-olds. It's ridiculous. Anyway, it's not. I believe that it can all get better if there's politicians that are risen from the people. But you want to hate, go